Let me start by asking you something. How much do you value yourself? I know, you're probably thinking, I value myself. But what does that have to do with boundaries? Well, everything. Boundaries are more than just lines drawn in the sand. They are expressions of how we value ourselves. In a world that constantly demands our time, energy, and attention, setting boundaries is a radical act of self-respect. They are not meant to keep others away, but rather to protect the space in which we can thrive. Without boundaries, we open ourselves up to being overwhelmed, undervalued, and exhausted. But when we set clear boundaries, we communicate to the world that we know our worth and we are willing to protect it. Self-respect is the cornerstone of healthy boundaries. It's the inner knowledge that you are worthy of being treated with dignity and care. Without this self-awareness, we might find ourselves allowing others to cross lines that should remain firm. People are often afraid to set boundaries because they fear rejection or conflict. But the truth is that boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about creating an environment where respect, mutual understanding, and care can flourish. When we talk about self-respect, we're not speaking of arrogance or entitlement. Self-respect is about acknowledging that you, just like everyone else, deserve to be treated with kindness, empathy, and consideration. Setting boundaries is an outward manifestation of this belief. It's the internal conviction made visible through action. For example, when you tell someone, I don't have time to take on this additional responsibility, you're not rejecting them as a person, you're protecting your own time and mental well-being, ensuring that you have enough space to perform your existing duties effectively. People often struggle with boundaries because they are concerned about what others will think. There's a common fear that setting limits will make others upset or that it will damage relationships. But here's the truth, when you don't set boundaries, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to others. You're essentially teaching people that your time and energy are limitless, and when you're drained and overwhelmed, they're left wondering why you can't give more. But the problem isn't with them. It's with the lack of boundaries you've set. In essence, you're giving up your self-respect by failing to make it clear where your limits lie. Respecting yourself means recognizing your own needs and making sure they are met. It means acknowledging that you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you take time to rest, say no when you need to, and protect your energy, you are engaging in acts of self-respect. It's important to remember that saying no is not a rejection of others. Rather, it's an affirmation of your own worth and needs. It's a signal that you know who you are, what you can handle, and what is simply too much. Furthermore, boundaries foster trust and respect in relationships. When you establish clear boundaries, you show others how to interact with you in a way that is respectful and considerate. This creates a space for authentic connections where both parties understand the importance of mutual respect. For instance, if you set a boundary with a friend by saying, I need some alone time to recharge, you're being honest about your needs, which ultimately strengthens the relationship. They may initially feel unsure or uncomfortable, but over time they'll understand and respect your need for space. Boundaries also protect our emotional and mental health. Without them, we risk becoming consumed by the demands of others, constantly feeling drained, frustrated, and unappreciated. But when we set limits, we are asserting that our mental and emotional health matters. It's a form of self-care that helps us remain focused on our personal well-being and gives us the energy to care for others as well. If we neglect to set boundaries, we are essentially telling ourselves that we're not worth the effort to protect our peace. This can lead to burnout, resentment, and even depression. Setting boundaries also teaches others how to treat us. When we don't establish limits, we allow people to dictate how we engage with them. But when we take control of our own lives by drawing clear boundaries, we make it known that we are responsible for our own well-being. It's a statement that we are in charge of our lives and will not tolerate mistreatment, disrespect, or exploitation. It's not about being confrontational, it's about taking charge of our own narrative. When you set boundaries, you invite people to treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Ultimately, boundaries are a reflection of how much we respect ourselves. They represent the clear understanding that we are worthy of love, care, and dignity. Setting boundaries isn't about being rigid or unapproachable. It's about protecting your own emotional, mental, and physical space to ensure that you can be the best version of yourself. By valuing yourself enough to set boundaries, you send a message that you are worthy of respect, and that message resonates with everyone around you. At the core of every healthy relationship, whether it's with family, friends, co-workers, or romantic partners, lies one essential ingredient: clear boundaries. Boundaries act as the framework that allows relationships to flourish and evolve in a healthy way. Without them, relationships can easily become strained, unclear, and even toxic. When we define our personal limits and communicate them effectively to others, we create an environment where mutual respect, understanding, and trust can thrive. Clear boundaries are not about building walls between people. Rather, they create space for each individual to exist fully as themselves without overstepping the emotional or physical needs of the other. They ensure that each person's needs, desires, and limits are recognized and respected, which in turn strengthens the bond between them. A relationship where boundaries are clear allows each individual to feel safe, understood, and valued. When boundaries are in place, there's no room for assumptions or confusion. Imagine a relationship where both parties constantly feel the need to guess the other's feelings or desires, where nothing is openly communicated and everything feels uncertain. This environment breeds misunderstanding and frustration. But when clear boundaries are set, everyone involved knows what's acceptable and what isn't. This transparency ensures that no one's needs are overlooked or dismissed, making the relationship stronger and more harmonious. One of the most significant ways that clear boundaries contribute to healthy relationships is by fostering open and honest communication. When we set boundaries, we're essentially communicating our expectations and needs to others. For example, in a friendship, if one person values quality time and needs space to recharge, setting a boundary around alone time helps the other person understand the duration isn't a rejection, but a way of maintaining a healthy balance. Likewise, in a romantic relationship, if one partner has a boundary regarding personal space or privacy, it's vital for the other partner to respect that limit. By communicating these needs clearly, both people can create a relationship dynamic that is mutually supportive. The absence of boundaries, on the other hand, can lead to resentment and frustration. Without clear boundaries, one person may feel constantly drained or overlooked while the other feels confused and unappreciated. The person who is not being heard may begin to suppress their feelings, which can lead to emotional exhaustion and even withdrawal. Over time, this emotional disconnection can erode the foundation of the relationship. Clear boundaries, however, prevent this from happening by ensuring that both parties can express their needs and maintain a sense of individuality while still being connected. Boundaries also help protect the emotional health of everyone involved. In relationships where boundaries are lacking, one person might feel as though they are constantly giving without receiving, leading to burnout and resentment. The person who is constantly giving might begin to feel taken advantage of, while the person who is not respecting the boundaries may feel entitled to more than they're being offered. These imbalances can lead to emotional manipulation, power struggles, or a feeling of being trapped within the relationship. But when boundaries are clearly set, both individuals are encouraged to prioritize their emotional health, ensuring that each person has the space to breathe, grow, and feel secure in their interactions. Healthy boundaries also promote mutual respect within relationships. When someone communicates a boundary, it's a clear signal that they value themselves and their needs. Likewise, when someone respects the boundary of another person, they demonstrate that they value that person's autonomy and well-being. This mutual respect creates a foundation of trust that is essential for a relationship to thrive. It's a dynamic where each person can be their true self without fear of judgment or overreach. This trust strengthens the relationship and encourages both people to open up more authentically. Additionally, boundaries help to prevent unhealthy patterns from taking root. In relationships where boundaries are not respected, manipulative behaviors such as guilt tripping, emotional blackmail, or constant criticism may become more common. When boundaries are set clearly, these behaviors are less likely to take hold because each person is aware of the limits and expectations. For example, if one partner sets a boundary about not tolerating disrespectful language, this sets a tone of mutual accountability and prevents the relationship from devolving into toxic dynamics. Clear boundaries also provide the necessary space for individuals to grow within the relationship. When each person is encouraged to maintain their individuality and respect the other's needs, there's room for both personal and relational growth. Each person can continue developing their own interests, passions, and goals without feeling suffocated or constrained by the relationship. This dynamic creates a balanced partnership where both people can pursue their own paths while being supportive of one another's journeys. In any relationship, the absence of boundaries often leads to frustration and conflict. But when clear boundaries are set and respected, the relationship becomes a nurturing space where both individuals feel valued, understood, and safe. Boundaries help prevent misunderstandings, encourage open communication, protect emotional well-being, and create a strong foundation of mutual respect and trust. Through the careful establishment of boundaries, relationships are not only protected from negative influences, but are allowed to thrive and evolve into healthy, fulfilling connections. In today's fast-paced world, where distractions are constant and demands come from every direction, protecting your peace has never been more essential. One of the most effective ways to safeguard your inner calm and maintain emotional balance is by setting boundaries. Boundaries act as a shield, protecting your mental, emotional, and physical space from external pressures that could potentially overwhelm or disrupt your peace. Without boundaries, we leave ourselves vulnerable to manipulation, exhaustion, and stress. But when we set clear limits, we empower ourselves to preserve our sense of tranquility and maintain control over our lives. Boundaries are a tool of self-preservation. They define where we end and where the world begins, allowing us to establish a clear sense of self in a world full of noise. Without boundaries, it's easy to become engulfed in the demands of others, the expectations placed on us, and the relentless pursuit of productivity. Over time, this can leave us feeling drained, unfulfilled, and disconnected from our true selves. By setting boundaries, we create a protective layer that ensures we don't lose ourselves in the chaos. We say, I am worthy of space. I am worthy of rest. My peace matters. When we fail to set boundaries, we risk becoming overloaded. The constant tugging of responsibilities, the never-ending requests, and the weight of other people's emotions can take a toll on our mental and emotional health. It can feel like we're being pulled in a million directions, unable to catch our breath. Without a clear sense of where our energy begins and ends, we allow others to invade our emotional space, leaving us feeling anxious, frustrated, and disconnected. Boundaries act as our first line of defense against this. By setting clear limits on how much we can give when we need space and what we're willing to tolerate, we ensure that we're not stretching ourselves too thin and that we can still show up as our best selves. In relationships, boundaries are essential for protecting your peace. Healthy relationships require mutual respect for each person's needs and limits. Without boundaries, relationships can become imbalanced, with one person continuously giving and the other taking. This imbalance can lead to feelings of resentment, emotional burnout, and stress. For example, if you find yourself constantly saying yes to favors, invitations, or requests for help at the expense of your own well-being, you may start to feel overwhelmed and drained. Setting boundaries, such as saying no when you need to, allows you to preserve your energy and protect your emotional health. It's not about being selfish. It's about recognizing that in order to give to others, you must first take care of yourself. Setting boundaries also protects your peace by ensuring that you are not exposed to toxic or harmful behaviors. In both personal and professional settings, we all encounter people whose actions or words can disrupt our emotional stability. Whether it's a manipulative friend, a controlling colleague, or a disrespectful family member, their behavior can chip away at our peace over time if we don't set clear limits. Boundaries allow us to protect ourselves from these toxic influences. By asserting what is acceptable and what is not, we communicate that we will not tolerate mistreatment. When we do this, we preserve our emotional well-being and maintain a sense of peace, free from the negativity of others. In a world that constantly demands our attention, boundaries also provide us with the space to prioritize our own needs. Without boundaries, we might find ourselves constantly putting the needs of others before our own, leading to exhaustion and resentment. Boundaries help us decide where to focus our energy and attention. By recognizing our limitations and understanding our capacity, we can make intentional choices about how to spend our time. This allows us to create a life that aligns with our values and priorities, rather than being driven by the demands of others. When we make self-care a priority through boundaries, we cultivate inner peace and prevent burnout. Boundaries also protect our peace by fostering a sense of control. Life can often feel chaotic and unpredictable, but when we set boundaries, we take control of how we engage with the world around us. We are no longer at the mercy of other people's demands or the relentless pace of modern life. Instead, we assert our autonomy and choose how we want to spend our time, energy, and attention. This sense of control over our lives is empowering and contributes to a feeling of inner peace, as we know we are actively shaping our reality rather than reacting to it. Moreover, setting boundaries protects our peace by encouraging healthier work-life balance. In a society that often values busyness over balance, it's easy to feel like we have to say yes to every opportunity, project, or responsibility that comes our way. However, constantly overloading ourselves with work or commitments can create a sense of inner turmoil and stress. By setting clear boundaries between work and personal time, we ensure that we have the necessary space to recharge, relax, and engage in activities that bring us joy. This balance is essential for maintaining peace and mental well-being in a world that constantly demands more. Lastly, boundaries help us maintain a healthy relationship with ourselves. When we establish boundaries, we are essentially honoring our own needs and desires. We are saying to ourselves, I deserve time for rest. I deserve to be heard. I deserve respect. This self-respect is essential for inner peace because it allows us to maintain a positive relationship with ourselves, one that is grounded in self-love and self-compassion. Without boundaries, we may unknowingly neglect our own well-being, which can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and inner conflict. But when we set and enforce boundaries, we affirm that we are worthy of peace and deserve to protect our emotional and mental health. Boundaries protect your peace by empowering you to create a life that is aligned with your values, needs, and priorities. They allow you to navigate the world with a sense of security, knowing that you are not overextended or compromised. By protecting your peace, boundaries ensure that you can show up as your best self in every aspect of your life, whether at work, in relationships, or within your own mind. Boundaries are often misunderstood as rigid rules or barriers that shut others out. However, in reality, they are a reflection of personal strength, self-awareness, and confidence. Setting boundaries is not a sign of weakness. It is a powerful assertion of self-respect and clarity. It takes immense courage and conviction to define and communicate your limits, especially when the world around you might pressure you to conform, comply, or give more than you are able or willing. Boundaries signal to both yourself and others that you value your well-being, know your worth, and are not afraid to protect your emotional, mental, and metaphysical space. When you set boundaries, you're essentially telling the world, I know who I am, and I'm clear about what I need. This confidence comes from an understanding that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. You recognize that your time, energy, and emotional health are valuable commodities that deserve respect. This self-assurance allows you to confidently say no when necessary, speak up when you're uncomfortable, and set clear limits on behaviors that you won't tolerate. It's not about being rude or selfish. It's about standing firm in your own sense of self-worth and showing others how you expect to be treated. Boundaries demonstrate strength because they require you to be emotionally resilient and self-aware. The act of setting a boundary especially in situations where others may not agree or may try to push back, can be challenging. It's much easier to avoid confrontation or to allow someone else's needs to take precedence over your own. But when you decide to honor your limits, it requires emotional strength to remain true to those boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. It means not bending to the pressure of others, not sacrificing your peace or well-being just to keep the peace in the short term. In this sense, boundaries are an exercise in personal fortitude, the strength to say, this is what I can handle, and this is what I cannot. Furthermore, setting boundaries requires clarity and self-awareness, qualities that reflect deep confidence. To establish boundaries, you must first know what you stand for, what you value, and what your priorities are. You need to be in touch with your feelings, understand your limits, and be able to communicate these effectively to others. The process of identifying what you are willing to accept and what you are not requires a deep understanding of your own needs and desires. This level of self-awareness reflects an inner strength because it's only through knowing yourself that you can confidently express your limits to others. Boundaries also reflect strength in how they protect your mental and emotional well-being. Life can be unpredictable, and we are often faced with situations that test our patience, our tolerance, and our emotional resilience. Without boundaries, we become susceptible to manipulation, burnout, and stress. By setting limits, we take control of our lives and protect our mental peace. When you set a boundary with someone who repeatedly asks too much of you, for example, you are exercising your emotional strength by asserting that your well-being matters more than trying to please others. This is a powerful stance, one that requires the strength to say no without feeling guilty or apologetic. In relationships, whether personal or professional, boundaries reflect strength because they maintain a sense of mutual respect. Healthy relationships are built on the understanding that both individuals have their own needs, desires, and limits. When you set clear boundaries, you're not just protecting your own space, you're creating a healthier, more respectful dynamic where both parties can thrive. Relationships thrive on reciprocity. And when you establish your boundaries, you're showing that you respect yourself enough to expect that same level of respect from others. You're teaching others how to treat you, and in doing so, you encourage more balanced and healthy interactions. Moreover, boundaries help you prioritize your time and energy, which reflects a powerful sense of control over your life. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to meet everyone's expectations, whether it's taking on extra work, helping others to your own detriment, or overcommitting yourself. Without boundaries, you risk spreading yourself too thin and neglecting your own needs. Setting boundaries allows you to take back control of your time. It empowers you to say no to activities or requests that don't align with your goals, values, or priorities. This ability to prioritize, to choose how and where you invest your energy, is an act of strength because it requires discipline and courage to make decisions that serve your highest good, even when it means disappointing others. Setting boundaries also requires a willingness to stand firm in the face of resistance. People might push back or try to test your limits, especially if they're accustomed to you being more accommodating. It's easy to fall into the trap of people-pleasing, to feel guilty about setting boundaries, or to fear rejection. But real strength comes when you stand your ground and remain consistent in enforcing your limits. When you maintain your boundaries despite opposition, you show that you are not easily swayed or manipulated. This is the kind of strength that builds self-respect and earns the respect of others. Finally, boundaries reflect confidence because they allow you to live authentically. When you honor your own needs and limits, you are being true to yourself. You are not pretending to be someone you're not, nor are you pretending to be okay when you're not. Living authentically is one of the strongest and most courageous things you can do. By setting boundaries, you are creating a life that reflects who you truly are, not who others want you to be. This level of authenticity is a clear reflection of self-confidence. It says, I am enough as I am, and I will not sacrifice my peace for anyone. Boundaries are not just limits, they are powerful declarations of confidence and strength. By setting boundaries, you show the world that you know your worth, that you value yourself enough to protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being, and that you are strong enough to stand by your decisions. In a world where everyone seems to be constantly moving, demanding your attention, and pulling you in multiple directions, it becomes easy to lose track of what matters most. Without boundaries, it's all too easy to say yes to everyone and everything, leading to burnout, exhaustion, and frustration. However, boundaries are essential tools for protecting your time and energy, allowing you to make intentional decisions about how you spend them. They provide structure, clarity, and purpose in a chaotic world, empowering you to focus on what aligns with your goals and values. When you set boundaries, you're essentially saying, this is where my time and energy go, and this is where they don't. This sense of clarity helps you identify what truly matters and what can be set aside. Boundaries create a filter for your commitments and interactions. When you have clear lines about what you can and cannot do, you avoid the trap of overcommitting yourself. You stop saying yes to things that drain you, leaving you with the space to prioritize what aligns with your personal goals, passions, and well-being. Without boundaries, time and energy can slip away unnoticed. We often find ourselves caught up in other people's agendas, whether it's colleagues asking for help with a project, friends needing emotional support, or family members demanding attention. While it's natural to want to help others, constantly accommodating others' needs without considering your own can lead to stress and depletion. Boundaries allow you to assess each situation and ask yourself, is this worth my time and energy? By being selective in how you allocate your resources, you are ensuring that you can give your best to the things that matter most. Boundaries help you recognize that your time is finite and precious, and how you use it should reflect that understanding. Setting boundaries also helps you maintain focus on your own priorities. In a world full of distractions, it's easy to get caught up in the endless cycle of responding to emails, attending meetings, or dealing with urgent requests. However, when you have established boundaries, you can better separate what is urgent from what is important. For example, if you've committed to focusing on a personal project or spending quality time with family, setting boundaries around work or other responsibilities helps you stay on track. This prioritization ensures that you give the time and energy needed for the things that support your growth, happiness, and long-term goals, rather than simply reacting to what's immediately in front of you. Boundaries also create the space you need to rest and recharge. We live in a culture that often celebrates overwork and hustle, but constantly being on can lead to physical and emotional burnout. By setting boundaries around your work hours, social commitments, and personal time, you ensure that you have the necessary time to rest, relax, and recharge. This not only preserves your energy, but also allows you to be more productive and present when it matters most. The energy you conserve through boundaries is not just about avoiding exhaustion, it's about creating a balance that allows you to thrive, not merely survive. Furthermore, boundaries help prevent the emotional drain that often comes from saying yes to things you don't truly want to do. Every time you agree to something out of guilt or a desire to please others, you expend energy that could be better used elsewhere. These empty commitments not only drain you emotionally, but can also erode your self-esteem as you start to feel like you're giving parts of yourself away without receiving anything in return. By setting boundaries, you can say no without guilt, freeing up your emotional resources for the people and activities that genuinely fulfill you. This emotional energy can then be redirected toward what truly brings you joy and satisfaction, ensuring that you're spending your time in ways that nourish you rather than deplete you. Additionally, boundaries help you make more intentional choices about the relationships in your life. People can be a huge source of energy, both positive and negative. When you set boundaries with others, you are ensuring that your relationships are based on mutual respect and understanding. For example, if a friend constantly demands your attention but never reciprocates, setting a boundary around the time and energy you give to that relationship protects you from feeling used or drained. By prioritizing relationships that are reciprocal and healthy, you ensure that your energy is being invested in connections that uplift and support you, rather than relationships that cause you unnecessary stress. Boundaries also empower you to set a pace that works for you. Many people feel pressured by external expectations to keep up with the fast pace of work, family obligations, and social commitments. Without boundaries, this external pressure can build up, leading to feelings of overwhelm. Setting boundaries enables you to slow down, be intentional with your time, and choose your own pace. It's not about saying no to everything, but rather saying yes to what aligns with your needs and aspirations. When you set boundaries around your commitments, you take back control over your time and the pace at which you move through life. This sense of control fosters inner peace and reduces the stress that comes with trying to meet everyone's expectations. In addition to managing your personal time, boundaries also help you safeguard your mental health. Mental and emotional energy are just as important as physical energy, and boundaries protect your mental space from being overrun by other people's demands. For example, if you're constantly bombarded by messages, requests, or tasks that leave you feeling overwhelmed, setting boundaries, such as limiting how often you check emails or saying no to projects that aren't aligned with your goals, helps protect your mental clarity. By creating boundaries around your mental space, you can reduce anxiety and stress, which allows you to approach your day with a clearer mind and greater focus. Ultimately, boundaries act as a compass that helps you prioritize your time and energy. They help you allocate your most valuable resources toward the things that are most important to you, whether that's work, family, personal growth, or rest. Boundaries also protect your mental, emotional, and physical well-being, ensuring that you don't overextend yourself or fall into patterns of burnout. By setting and maintaining boundaries, you take back control of your life and create the space needed to thrive in all areas. You protect your energy from being drained by unnecessary commitments, allowing you to focus on what truly aligns with your goals and values. Boundaries are not just personal limits, they are powerful statements that communicate to the world how you expect to be treated. By defining and upholding boundaries, you establish the standards for how others can interact with you, what behaviors are acceptable, and what will not be tolerated. In essence, boundaries set the tone for the level of respect, dignity, and care you receive from others. They are the foundation upon which healthy, balanced, and respectful relationships are built. When you enforce your boundaries, you send a clear message to the people around you about how you value yourself and how you expect others to treat you. The concept of boundaries often starts internally. We teach ourselves how to value our own time, energy, and emotional well-being by recognizing our limits and needs. This self-awareness then influences how we engage with others. If you respect yourself enough to set boundaries, others are more likely to follow suit and respect those boundaries as well. Setting boundaries isn't about being rigid or closed off, it's about communicating your needs and non-negotiables in a clear and respectful way. When you set the tone for how you want to be treated, you create a space where mutual respect is expected and achieved. One of the most significant ways boundaries influence how you're treated is through the principle of self-respect. When you set boundaries, you communicate to others that you understand your worth. You are saying, I value myself enough to stand up for my needs. This not only helps protect your well-being, but also teaches others to do the same. People will mirror the energy you give off. If you demonstrate that your time, energy, and emotional space are precious, others will learn to treat those aspects of you with similar value. If you don't establish boundaries, people may inadvertently walk over your limits, assuming that your needs are secondary to theirs. But when you make it clear where you stand, you send a message that your time, energy, and feelings deserve to be honored. Another key way boundaries influence how you're treated is by preventing others from taking advantage of your kindness or willingness to please. Without boundaries, people may begin to take more than they give, leaving you feeling depleted or unappreciated. For instance, if you constantly say yes to requests even when it's inconvenient or overwhelming, people may begin to expect that you will always put their needs first. This can create an unbalanced dynamic in which your own needs are overlooked. By setting boundaries and learning to say no when needed, you prevent others from taking advantage of your generosity. Boundaries signal to others that you are not a source of unlimited energy or a doormat to be walked over. You create a more equitable relationship by teaching others to respect your time and energy. Boundaries also establish the emotional tone of your relationships. In any relationship, whether personal, familial, or professional, emotions can become complicated. Without boundaries, emotions can become muddled and difficult to navigate. People may not know where your emotional limits lie, and as a result, they might behave in ways that strain the relationship. However, when you communicate your boundaries clearly, you prevent misunderstandings and emotional overreach. For example, in a romantic relationship, if one partner consistently dismisses your need for space or time alone, this lack of respect can cause frustration, anxiety, and resentment. By setting boundaries and explaining why you need time for yourself, you create an atmosphere of understanding and emotional balance. When both partners are clear about each other's emotional limits, the relationship flourishes in a healthier, more supportive way. Boundaries are also crucial in the workplace, where power dynamics can sometimes lead to imbalances in how you're treated. Setting professional boundaries helps protect your time, energy, and personal life, ensuring that your work doesn't consume all of your emotional resources. For instance, if you allow colleagues or supervisors to contact you at all hours of the day or night without regard for your personal time, you are setting the tone that your personal life is secondary to work. However, if you communicate clearly that you are available during specific hours and need your personal time to recharge, you set a boundary that will be respected over time. In doing so, you teach others that your time is valuable and that you deserve time away from work. Setting clear boundaries also reduces stress and helps you maintain a healthier work-life balance, which ultimately increases your productivity and job satisfaction. In friendships and family relationships, boundaries help define the level of respect and care you expect from others. These types of relationships can sometimes feel complicated because of emotional closeness and shared history. However, boundaries still play an essential role in maintaining healthy interactions. For instance, if a family member frequently makes critical or judgmental comments about your choices, setting a boundary around how you wish to be spoken to is crucial. You might say, "I understand your concern, but I expect to be treated with respect, and I would appreciate it if you could refrain from making negative comments about my decisions." By setting this boundary, you communicate that you will not tolerate disrespect, and you are teaching your family members how to engage with you in a way that is respectful of your autonomy and self-worth. When you begin to enforce your boundaries, people might initially push back or challenge them, especially if they are accustomed to you being more accommodating. However, when you consistently stand firm in your boundaries, you set the tone for how future interactions will unfold. Over time, people will start to learn where your limits lie and will respect those boundaries more readily. Your consistency teaches others how to treat you, and it reinforces the idea that your needs are valid and deserving of consideration. Furthermore, boundaries empower you to take control of your own life. They help prevent emotional exhaustion, resentment, and frustration, as you no longer feel obligated to sacrifice your needs for the sake of others. As you protect your emotional, mental, and physical space, you maintain a greater sense of autonomy, which reflects in how others perceive and treat you. You are no longer a passive participant in your relationships, but an active creator of the boundaries that guide how you are treated. In this way, boundaries give you the power to cultivate relationships that are fulfilling, balanced, and mutually respectful. Ultimately, boundaries serve as a reflection of how you value yourself and how you expect others to value you. By setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, you ensure that your time, energy, and emotions are treated with the respect they deserve. Boundaries are not only a tool for protecting yourself, they are a powerful form of self-advocacy that helps you shape the way others treat you, ensuring that your relationships are founded on respect, dignity, and mutual understanding.